And I do have my agenda ready this time.
Okay.
Unless I lose it again.
All right, and we're live.
Thank you, Ashley.
Mhm.
All right, Mike, it's all yours. You're on mute, Mike.
Can't hear him.
Mike, you
Yeah,
muted.
hey, Mike, you're muted. Can you unmute?
Hi, Terry.
There you go, Mike.
There we go.
Hi there.
Okay, can you hear me still?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, call to order the special meeting, April 29th, 2021 at 1:30. Can we do a roll call, please?
Freeling? Present.
With that said, I'm going to pull up our
Via Zoom in Baroda Township?
agenda for today.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Clett?
get started.
Here from Lincoln Township.
And I'm just gonna
Majerick?
keep an eye on my,
Here from Niles, Michigan City.
Meeks?
Here from Ben Charter Township.
Vangenhoven?
Present via Zoom, Lincoln Charter Township.
Mr. Chair, you have 5 present.
Okay, and has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last week?
Yes, I make a motion, we approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting as written.
Yep, not last
I'll
week.
second that.
Okay, approved and second. Let's call the roll call.
Freeling? Yes. Clett?
Here.
Yes.
Yes.
Majerick?
Yes.
Meeks?
Yes.
And Vangenhoven?
Yes,
Mr. Chair, you have 5 yeas.
Okay. Any correspondence?
We have no correspondence.
All right, public comments.
before we move on to public, never mind. My comments on the public comments, never mind.
Oh, okay.
Ashley, can you see if we have any public comments coming in on the YouTube feed? And if so, could you read them to us?
We currently don't have any public comments.
Okay, we can come back at the end of the meeting and see if there are any at that point as well.
Exactly, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, we can check from time to time.
Yep.
All right. Dan, can you go over the Brownfield plan approval?
Yeah, let me pull up my screen. I'm going to share a presentation with you, and we will jump right into this. Okay. Here we go. Can everyone see that's up on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have informally kind of discussed the possibilities of a project that may be coming to us regarding Whirlpool Corporation. I'm happy to say that the project is finally ready to move forward, and Whirlpool Corporation is going to undertake the redevelopment of the St. Joseph Technical Center. And they are asking that the county board approve a brownfield redevelopment plan to assist in defraying certain eligible costs associated with the redevelopment of the site. In this presentation, I'll give you a summary of the project. We'll describe the location of the site, its use and history, the basis for why it's eligible for brownfield redevelopment assistance, and then we'll go through what we call these technical Section 13 requirements. Of course, we just went through this 2 weeks ago with another plan, so I think everyone's pretty much up to speed on how this works. So I will jump right in and we'll start this off. As I said, Whirlpool is going to redevelop a parcel of property located on Upton Drive, located in the city of St. Joe. The property will redevelop former and current industrial property that contains the Whirlpool Global Laundry Dishwasher Technical Center, what we call the Tech Center facility. It'll involve the demolition of an existing 4-story, 120 square foot building on the south end, the renovation of 20,000 square feet on the north end of the technical center, and the construction of a brand new 2-story, 153,000 square foot building attachment on the north wing. This is significant investment on the part of Whirlpool. It's estimated to cost about $60 million in total to undertake these activities, and will have a long-term impact on the increase of the municipal tax base the city of St. Joseph and Berrien County. Moreover, the project is going to create substantial temporary construction jobs in the area, but more importantly, this will ensure that Whirlpool will be able to retain the current 400 full-time technical center employees who are currently averaging individual compensation of about $140,000 annually. So this is enormous project in terms of the retention of current employment in the Twin Cities area. Whirlpool is seeking tax increment financing from the local taxing units, the county, the city, LMC, as well as we're seeking state educational tax capture from the Michigan Strategic Fund, and I'll talk about that in a second. To defray the cost of certain eligible activities, including due care, environmental assessment activities, certain environmental response activities, additional infrastructure development, including infrastructure held in public right-of-ways, public easements, site preparation costs that'll be necessary, excavation, demolition, stormwater management systems, and so forth. These are all eligible as infrastructure site management components. I would remind you that the City of St. Joe is considered to be a core community, and therefore public infrastructure and site preparation costs are eligible for Brownfield TIF reimbursement in addition to the underlying environmental costs as well. The Brownfield Authority itself will charge administrative fees for this. We think it's a reasonable cost that we put together for the administrative fees. The total estimated eligible activities are going to cost $7,452,000. The property is located 2 blocks east of Lake Michigan, right along Upton Drive, Momney Drive, Renaissance Drive, and it's approximately 14.2 acres of land. And I'll show you some maps here, and I think you'll recognize the site immediately. If you notice here, we're looking at this would be Upton Drive would be here, Momney coming around. You see Whitlam Drive here, Renaissance Drive coming through. This is the parcel of property we're talking about. Anytime you come down Whitlam up onto Upton, you drive right past the facility. I'm sure everyone's probably seen it at some point. This is just a more enhanced picture of the facility we're talking about. This is the north wing. This is the south wing. This area down here, the south wing, is where the demolition will occur. And then the new attachment to the facility is going to be constructed here on the north part of the site. Again, just to show you a site plan schematic, you can see this is the outline of where the new portion of the facility will be constructed. The southern portion here is where the demolition will occur, and that'll be turned into parking structures or parking lot, as you'll see shortly. This is the conceptual rendering of what it'll look like upon completion. This is turned about 90 degrees, so this would be Upton Drive here, and we'd be looking at the north side, or the right-hand side of this would be on the north, south side down here. So this is where the old building is that's going to be demolished. You can see that's now a parking lot. And then the new construction here on the north side is what we're looking at. This is the 153,000 square foot construction that's going to take place on the north side. Some exterior renderings of what this will look like when completed. This will be the renderings on the new component. This is the courtyard that'll connect the new component to the north to the existing building slightly to the south. Some conceptual interior renderings of what it'll look like inside. And, not surprisingly, as with all, facilities that Whirlpool constructs and manages, it's, first class, state-of-the-art facility. You can tell just by the renderings. The site was occupied by Auto Specialties, OSCO, and the Upton Machine Company from sometime before 1921. That's as early as we can see records of it, but it existed before 1921. And they continue to occupy that site until approximately the early 1990s. Now, as everyone's aware, Upton Machine Company eventually merged with the 1900 Corporation and became Whirlpool Corporation in 1950. There were structures associated with OSCO and Upton Machine Company's activities on the site. Those were demolished sometime between 1986 and 1997, it appears. And the current structures were constructed sometime around 1997 into 2005 and have been occupied by Whirlpool since then. The OSCO building that was on the site had a foundry, a machine shop, and some annealing ovens contained within it. The Upton building was basically used for the manufacturing of washing machines and air rifles, which anyone who has read the history of Whirlpool knows that they did that for a little bit of a time. There was a phase 2 environmental site assessment done on the property last December, and that confirmed the presence of contamination in excess of the established criteria. Therefore, it is a facility under Part 201 of Public Act 451. And as you recall, a facility is defined as, a property containing hazardous substances in excess of certain established standards for cleanup. As it is a facility, it therefore also is eligible property, eligible to be included in the Brownfield plan. To give a little more context to this, the specific contaminants that were identified were petroleum constituents, arsenic, iron, and manganese. These appear to have been the result of prior manufacturing activities conducted by the occupants in the site. We can't delineate specifically when this occurred or when the releases of these contaminants occurred or which occupant was responsible for that, but they appear to have occurred sometime in the early part of the 20th century to the mid 20th century. So we're talking about activities that took place 70 to 80 years ago, it looks like. In any event, the presence of these contaminations, even at low level, make it property that's eligible for inclusion to a brownfield plan.
And I was just going to ask you, is that low level contamination mostly?
It appears to be, Lee. There's some soil impact. There may be some slight groundwater impact, but as you'll see in this new slide that I'm showing you, the environmental responses are a small part of the overall cost of the project. There's not going to be a great deal of necessary environmental mitigation.
That was Larry, not Lee, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry, Larry.
That's all right. Never mind.
I'm sorry about that. Here is a table of the assigned eligible activities with the maximum amount of cost that we think is going to be associated with them. There's due care activities. And again, these are the activities that have to take place to ensure that you're not exacerbating the environmental condition of the property, certain capping that has to take place, some soil excavations, and some vapor intrusion controls that will be put in place. Due care activities are going to be about 1.1 million, a little bit more than that. Additional response activities would be certain protective measures that will be put in place where the parking lot is going to be and so forth. And that's about 350,000. The public infrastructure component of this, which will be some stormwater management. I'm sorry, there'll be some sewer work that'll be done. That's about 600 grand. There's a considerable amount of site preparation, site leveling, soil compaction, and so forth, about $1 million of that. The demolition is very expensive, $3 million. Not surprisingly, that tends to be the most expensive component of these projects. There will be some stormwater management systems that have to be installed because they do have a flooding problem currently in part of the facility, and they want to make sure that they eliminate that in the construction of the new portion of it. We have administrative costs for the Brownfield Authority estimated to be about $100,000. That's $5,000 a year over a 20-year period, and then 15% is placed in for contingency for the total amount of $7.4 million in eligible cost. These are always real difficult to read when we put them up on the slides, but this is the tax increment financing plan that we would look at. We estimate that the total value that will be added upon the completion of the construction will be about $9 million of new value added to the site. It gets a little tricky because the site is currently also in an in a Renaissance zone, which, as you might recall, eliminates certain property taxes during a period of time. That enterprise zone will start to expire this year and moving forward over the next 3 years. Additionally, Whirlpool is seeking an industrial facilities tax abatement from the city of St. Joe, which will reduce its property tax liability by about half over the first 12 years of this project. So we have to factor in all of these offsetting tax abatement programs that are kind of overlaid with the brownfield. The long and short of it is it'll generate approximately about $140,000 to $150,000 in local tax reimbursement for the first 12 years, and an additional $200,000 of state school tax reimbursement over the first 12 years. And then thereafter, those values will double. So we're looking in total, if you want to look at the end of the TIF schedule, we're looking in total of about a 24 to 25 year repayment period on all these costs. Although not in this presentation, I will inform you that we have already submitted documentation to the MEDC to be considered for the Michigan Strategic Fund. We're seeking approval from the Michigan Strategic Fund to capture both the 6 mil state educational tax and the 18 mil local school operating tax for the purposes of this project. Again, remember that if that's allowed by the state of Michigan will make up those tax captures to both the State Educational Fund and the Local School Fund. Moving on with the section 13 requirements, where we have to state whether or not there's going to be public advancements or any public indebtedness associated with the project. It's all going to be financed by Whirlpool Corporation. There'll be no advances from the county or any other local unit of government. There's no note or bonded indebtedness on behalf of the public associated with this project. The proposed beginning date for the capture of the Brownfield plan is January 2023. And again, we think the duration of this is going to be 25 years, maybe a little less than that, depending on how the investment rolls on, but 25 years is a good maximum estimate for us. We've already taken a look at the future impact to tax revenues for the taxing jurisdictions. Those are the sheets that I just showed you. Hard to read, but long and short of it is, you know, it'll take about 25 years of local capture to pay this back. Remember, of course, when we do these tax increment financing plans, the current tax revenue is not going to be reduced to any unit. We set a baseline, and whatever anyone is getting right now off the unit, they'll continue to receive in terms of tax revenue. It's only the future tax revenue after the investment's made that becomes capturable. I've shown you a copy of the legal description, the location of the site, which we've attached to the plan. We've already gone through the characteristics of the property, the determination of eligibility based on its contamination and excesses of the residential cleanup criteria, part 201. Personal property, we think we have to state whether or not we're going to be capturing taxes from personal property. It's our assumption that personal property at this site is going to be categorized as industrial and therefore not subject to taxation. So there's unlikely to be personal property tax capture associated with this. Again, we have to state whether or not there's going to be uniform relocation of individuals residing on the site. Well, it's industrial property. There are no people residing on the site, no families or individuals that will be displaced. So the provisions of this act are inapplicable to this plan. Finally, we are not going to be capturing in excess of the project costs to fund the site remediation revolving fund. You're all aware that the county generally declines to participate in site remediation revolving fund because our goal is to get the project paid off and back on the tax rolls as expeditiously as possible. The final requirements would be any other information that would be pertinent to the Board of Commissioners. It's our understanding the City of St. Joe supports this plan. In fact, I'll be meeting with the City Brownfield Authority Monday morning for them to review this plan, go through it as well. Shortly thereafter, we'll be meeting with the City of St. Joe City Commission, asking for concurrence and approval of this plan. It is consistent with the city's master plan as well as building and zoning requirements. I told you there is going to be an industrial facilities tax abatement request associated with this, which will, you know, alter to some degree the repayment of tax increment revenues for the first 12 years because of the reduction in tax base that will result from that. Upon approval of this plan and obtaining the necessary financing incentives and so forth, Whirlpool intends to begin the project activities immediately. The entire project is expected to be completed somewhere around the spring of 2023. And again, there will be no excess tax capture deposited into a local revolving fund. The steps following this, as I said, I'll go to the City of St. Joe Brownfield Authority next Monday. We'll meet with the City Commission, I think the Monday following that. And then it'll go to a public hearing before the Board of Commissioners on Thursday. I believe it's the 17th of May. I have to check the calendar. If approved by the Board of Commissioners with concurrence from the City of St. Joe, we will then be attending the Michigan Strategic Fund meeting either in May or June. We're still trying to get the schedule worked out on that, at which point we're going to request approval of the school tax capture component of this plan. So it's a lot of information to go through, but I will tell you, we've been working quietly on this project for, gosh, 12 to 18 months, maybe longer than that. And it's quite rewarding to finally see this come to fruition. This is a great project for the community, the preservation of 400 high-paying jobs, the renovation and development of a brand new technical center on site. And as you saw in the newspaper this morning, that's only one of a number of announcements that Whirlpool has of investments that they're making in the Twin Cities area over the next 2 or 3 years. And it's, I think, exciting for all of us. So I will stop and answer any questions that anyone has. Jeff Knoll from Whirlpool Corporation is on the meeting with us as well, if you have any questions for him.
Dan, I had one. You made a comment in regards to St. Joe being a core community. Could you repeat the comment for me, please?
Yes. Generally speaking, you can only use brownfield tax increment revenues to reimburse direct environmental costs associated with redeveloping a brownfield authority. In certain circumstances, if the property is located in what's called a core community, then brownfield tax increment revenues can also be used to reimburse infrastructure costs associated with the project. Now, in Berrien County, the core communities would be the city of Benton Harbor, the city of St. Joe, Benton Township, and the city of Niles. So any brownfield projects in those 4 communities, the TIF revenue is eligible to be used for developer-funded public infrastructure costs. And Lee, an example of this would be, we just approved the Harbor Woods Brownfield plan 2 weeks ago, and that included water, sewer, storm sewer, roadway, and so forth.
Right,
And we'll
right.
be using tax increment revenue for those infrastructure costs because it's in a core community.
Okay. Also, unless somebody else has one, in regards to meeting the requirements for a brownfield, could you go into a little bit of detail on the declaration of obsolescence and then the inclusion of the demolition in the recovery plan?
Yes, originally we thought that we would potentially qualify this as a brownfield because it's obsolete property. There is a provision in the act that says that if it's not contaminated, if the property is not contaminated in excess of certain criteria, it can also be considered a brownfield if the property is obsolete, functionally obsolete. It can't be used for its intended purposes anymore. That was the original Plan B, I would call it. But when the phase 2 environmental report came back on the site, it was clear that it actually is a facility because of environmental conditions. So we're not going to even worry about the obsolescence issue.
Gotcha.
Lee, that's why I asked. I wanted to know what the contamination was, but apparently it's not that bad.
Okay.
Right?
It's the same kind of contamination that we would see in the industrial sites that were used in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s during the Depression and the war era. It's relatively similar to what we saw in those properties in the Harbor Shores project that we dealt with.
For your information, back in about 1950, I played Little League baseball on that property. Believe it or not.
Dan,
I think my dad and my
Giving
uncle
away
did
my
as well.
age here.
Yeah.
Another question, you mentioned the application of the MEDC. Is that only for the state school tax capture?
That is it, yeah. And
Okay.
that applies, again, not to get overly technical, but that school tax capture will apply only to the non-environmental components of this plan.
Okay.
So the environmental work of this plan will be reimbursed using local taxes, and the infrastructure components of the plan and the demolition will be reimbursed using a combination of both local and school taxes as authorized by the state.
Okay.
And this is identical to when we did Harbor Shores. We had to do the same kind of bifurcation of tax capture.
One final question. This is for you, Jeff. The documents mention the retention of the 400 jobs. Is there any anticipation or likelihood of additional employment from the new facility?
It's a great question. And, right now we wouldn't have any projections for employment growth, but I think it goes without saying that these kind of projects are investments for the long term, and none of us have a crystal ball. What it does mean, though, I think, is it sets the community up for when and if those opportunities present themselves through business growth or what might have you. St. Joseph and Berrien County will be in a far better position for those opportunities than if this project were not being done. So in the immediate, we know it helps retain those jobs. And I might say that, in today's world, we had to look at alternative locations, alternative places. And in today's world, we don't look just in the United States, we look globally. And this is our home, this is where we want to be. But from a business perspective, you've got to do the right due diligence. And this Brownfield Authority and the benefits and the support from the county are really critical ingredients in our being able to make that decision to keep this facility here in this community and be able to retain those jobs.
Thank you.
Jeff, I'd like to say thank you to you from the taxpayers of this community and this board for you and your board to keep these jobs locally. I know there was some talk that maybe they might move them offshore, but thank you for keeping it here.
Larry and Don Meeks and all of you, that you all have helped make this community what it is, both with your own companies and what you have done. And we're just proud to be part of a community working alongside so many of you. But let me just share, my math isn't good because I'm from Kentucky, but I do know that, you know, we soon will have been in this community 110 years. It's a great community. It's a great place to raise your family, but it's also a great place to operate a global enterprise. But we have to be competitive, and this action today certainly helps us do that.
Well, thank you, Jeff. If the members don't have any other questions, I circulated a resolution to you earlier, and we would have to have that resolution approved. If you would like me to read it, I can, unless you've already reviewed it yourselves.
Well, since we're recording, we may maybe read it into the record.
That's probably a good idea. Let me pull it up here and we'll read it into the record. Okay. Let's see if I can get up there. All right, this is Berrien County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority resolution recommending approval of the Whirlpool St. Joseph Technical Center Brownfield Plan dated April 29th, 2001. Sorry, 2021. Whereas the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, the authority of the County of Berrien, the county, pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act, being Act 381 of the Public Acts of the State of Michigan of 1996, as amended, the Act, has reviewed the Whirlpool St. Joe Technical Center Brownfield Plan, the plan pursuant to and in accordance with Section 13 of the Act. And whereas the authority has made the following determinations and findings: A, that the plan constitutes a public purpose under the Act, and B, that the plan meets all the requirements for a brownfield plan set forth in Section 13 of the Act, and C, the cost of the eligible activities proposed in the plan are reasonable and necessary to carry out the purposes of the Act, and D, the amount of captured tax value estimated to result from the adoption of the plan is reasonable. Now therefore be it resolved that the authority recommends the following. 1, that the Berrien County Board of Commissioners schedule and hold a public hearing in accordance with Sections 13 and 14 of the Act to consider the adoption of the plan. 2, that after holding the public hearing, the Berrien County Board of Commissioners approve by resolution the adoption of the plan. 3, that the St. Joe City Commission concur by resolution with the Berrien County Board of Commissioners adoption of this plan. So I am providing that to you with a request that it be acted upon by the board today.
Do you need a motion on that, Dan?
We would.
I would like to make that motion.
And I'll second that motion. And may I suggest that we check for public comments before we tender the vote on that?
Well, if there's a motion support, I guess, Mike, do you want me to have Ashley check for public comments?
Yeah, let's check for public comments. Is there any other discussion about this before we do, or let's check public comments and then look afterwards about the discussion. Jennifer,
currently,
oh,
sorry, there are currently no public comments.
okay,
Thanks, Ashley.
good. No, any discussion? Let's do a roll call then.
And Freeling has left the meeting. Klett,
Yes.
Majerick,
Yes.
Meeks,
Yes.
Van Genhoven.
Yes, with thanks to both Dan and Jeff for going into the detail on the plan.
All right, Mr. Chair, you have 4 yeas and 1 absent.
Okay. Well,
All right, Mike, I have, if you don't mind, I have one miscellaneous thing for you. And since Jeff is here,
okay, perfect.
I wanted to pull this up. Let me do one more screen share.
While you're doing that, Dan, I just, when we're done, I do have just a couple of comments to make.
Of course. All right, let me see if I can get my there we go. Can everyone see that right now? The map?
All right.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
now we can.
All right, so what you just did was approve a new brownfield plan for the location right here, Whitwam Drive. Of course, this is the entire, when we move across M63, we're getting into the entire Harbor Shores region. And here's the inn at Harbor Shores, the new marina, the village. Here's the new Whirlpool North American campus that was built, though I guess it's been about 8 or 9 years now. What we call Plant 7, the rehabilitated Plant 7. And this morning there was an announcement by Whirlpool that on this site right here, the old VW site, there's going to be an apartment complex constructed to the tune of about $22 million for 80 units we believe will get underway here shortly. This is the Pedestrian Bridge that we had helped to try to secure some funding for. And I just wanted to pull the map up, and maybe Jeff would want to comment on it as well. If you look at all of this is a Whirlpool investment here. This was a Harbor Shores investment with the assistance of Whirlpool, the global headquarters of Whirlpool investment, the old Plant 7 rehabilitation, the tech center. This location is kind of the junction of an enormous amount of investment that Whirlpool and associated companies and the public have made to try to rehabilitate and redevelop this entire property, 580 acres of Harbor Shores and multiple acres associated with direct Whirlpool properties. And this is kind of the culmination of 15 to 20 years of reinvestment in the community that Whirlpool has either made directly or assisted with. And it's it's not for me to editorialize, but I think this is a pretty exciting thing to see this all come together over the last 20 years and to see we're kind of at the, I don't want to say the tail end, but the point of really coming to some completion on these projects and seeing all this investment is pretty exciting. Jeff, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Well, I didn't want to add on to that, but I did want to make a couple of comments relative to, the big project. I remember not playing baseball next to the field there, Larry, but I do remember wearing little special booties with the Department of Environmental Quality, walking around the old parking lot of Auto Specialties, where today you've got the Renaissance Center, you've got the Edgewater Dunes, you've got all the buildings that are there. I even remember going over to Graham Avenue where the clubhouse is and absolutely just looking and saying, oh my gosh. And many of you probably will remember the 24-acre interchange at Clock Road, and even the huge bridge that went all the way across M63 that instead of coming down in kind of a nice flow area where it would be good for development. I remember that bridge going out another 180 feet and it felt like Grand Canyon. Been a lot of changes. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't come in and tell you that none of this would have been possible without Berrien County. The county has played such a huge role in every one of these projects. And I call these projects building blocks that keep building upon the other, which lead back to your question. I can't predict the future, but if you're always using building blocks and always improving and always doing better, good things will happen for the community. And I believe that. And I would love to see other companies locating in the area because of this. And so a great deal of gratitude to the county for its always great work. None of this, again, would have even been remotely possible without the county. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to come in and tell you, I get to do this kind of stuff a lot of different places. I've been doing economic development even longer than I've been working at Whirlpool. Projects happen because you got really great people and strong leadership and professionalism. And I just want to be able to take the time to thank Dan and the entire county, but especially Dan. Dan is a great representative of this county. He is so professional. He gets things done. He takes an awful lot of concern off the table for companies looking to make investments in the community. And I really wanted to call him out and thank him. And I also want to thank, obviously, Cornerstone Alliance and Rob Cleveland. When Rob and Dan show up, they're a great dynamic duo. They complement each other. It's great teamwork. But again, in the eyes of companies, in the eyes of company executives from all over the world, these two guys shine. Berrien County shines. And that's one of the reasons why, I'm looking forward to many, many more years of more and positive things to happen. But it doesn't occur just because somebody's got a checkbook. It occurs because you've got a great community, you've got great elected officials, and you've got great staff that makes it happen. And I just wanted to be able to take this chance to thank everybody personally, because, I've been part of that journey, and there's been a lot of things changing and doing, I think, for the very good. And I'm really especially proud of the fact that In the city of St. Joseph, this project can be announced on one day, and in the city of Benton Harbor, another can be announced. And what we've done in the headquarters in Benton Township, that's about bringing communities together. And it's about really genuinely believing in inclusion. And I think that's the hallmark of what we are all trying to do. And then I know I'm taking up time, so I apologize, but this is an important day, and it's a huge project. And I just simply want to thank everyone. And think about it. In the last 10 years, Whirlpool has built a brand new North American headquarters. It relocated its refrigeration technology from Indiana. A few years before that, we relocated our cooking technology from Ohio. And now we're making the investments in our dish and laundry technology centers that, candidly, in some space that look pretty bad, you now have highly improved and brand new buildings coming in. And it represents all of our global technology centers for our global enterprise. And that's the reason that an idea back in 1911 has turned into the world's largest and most important, in my opinion, major home appliance company, proudly located in Benton Harbor, St. Joseph, Michigan. So thank all of you for everything you've done.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
Exciting
Jeff.
to see this project happen. Well, folks, I don't have anything else. This was a pretty fast meeting. I'm happy that it's moving forward, and we'll get this over to the county board, and we'll get it over to the city council or city commission, and we'll get this moving forward for you.
Congratulations. I make
Yeah.
a motion and we close this meeting.
All right, let's adjourn. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, we need a second.
You can second it. We'll count that.
All right, I'll second it.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
good week.